Hello and welcome to the Sideboard here at the StarCityGames.com Open Series featuring the Invitational in Columbus. I'm Ken Crocker here with Mike Kenney. Mike, how's it going?
Good.
So we're here with a Tron deck,
The best Tron deck.
Green-red Tron. We're here with some blue-white Tron action. So before we get into the cards, exactly why blue-white Tron over red-green Tron?
So over red-green Tron, mainly because red-green Tron is like very linear. It's doing one thing, and it can get beaten by some outliers, and also just by really bad draws.
Sure.
So I like playing a deck that you can combo off with this deck, but otherwise you're just a big control deck, and I think you can hedge against a lot of the format that way.
So speaking of comboing off, one of the greater draws to this deck is the fact that you get to run 4 gifts Ungiven. So what kind of gifts packages are we trying to run here? What exactly are we looking for?
I mean, the best part about gifts is you can gifts for everything and anything. My opponent last round saw a Disenchant, a Sphinx of Revelation, a Snapcaster Mage, and a Batterskull. And just
blue-white cards you own?
Yeah,
and you just
cards in a binder, right?
Okay, yeah.
So the main targets, though, you have a couple of awesome creatures that cost way too much, so we should cast them for 4.
So
Elish Norn and Iona, Shield of Emeria.
Okay.
Elish Norn shuts down all the small creature decks, and like the Collected Company decks, the Elf decks, they just sort of roll over to it, and you can cast it on turn 4.
Yeah, because you have the Unbarrow rights.
And you have mana rocks to get there. So and Iona then shuts out most of the spell heavy decks and all of the combo decks. For a lot of decks, especially like the twin decks and stuff, you name blue, and they can no longer interact in the game. So it's kind of nice from that, and mono red too. Like that's how you beat burn, is you say red, and unless they have Bump of the Nights, they stop playing the game.
So speaking of burn and like aggro decks, we also have like 3 different Wraths here. We got 1 Day of Judgment, 1 Supreme Verdict, 1 Wrath of God, and you can get a Snapcaster Mage with that, so you can deal with some aggro decks, which is usually a problem for any Tron deck, right?
And what's nice is Wraths are actually pretty good in the format right now. Again, there's so many Collected Company decks, and most decks don't play just straight Wrath effects, so it's kind of nice to be able to, oh, by the way, I have these. So obviously, like Wrath of God and Supreme Verdict are better than Day of Judgment, but you have to have the different names. So
they didn't print enough. For you to be able to run them.
Wrath of, I don't know, just name some. Just
Wrath of Verdict.
There we go.
There we go.
Uncounterable, can't be regenerated.
Get on it, WotC.
I like it.
And then how do you win the game? So we just talked about how you value people and you get these big creatures, but like, let's say the big creatures don't do anything.
Well, the big creatures win the game a lot. But, we have like Batterskull, which I guess is Call Against Commands running around, but you can always, essentially in this deck, you can always bounce at your hand, so it's pretty consistent. Emrakul is the final end game and makes for the really fun gifts packages because you can start gifting for Emrakul and then 3 good cards, and then they can't give you Emrakul, so that and the other cards get shuffled back in.
Sure.
And normally it's gifts, Thirst for Knowledge, Sphinx's Rev, and Emrakul. They can't give you Sphinx's Rev, they can't give you Emrakul, so you have another gifts. So eventually you're going to get Emrakul. And an Ugin is a new addition and has been great, especially against all the black-green decks. Like, Ugin just comes down, exiles their board, and there's no Hero's Downfalls in this format, which is so nice. It's like, oh, is that a Planeswalker with CMC greater than 3? Oh. I don't do much there, and then, of course, like all the blue-white control decks, you also have access to one of the best man lands. There's 4 Colonnades, Celestial Colonnades in the deck, which, if you're just not drawing that way, you can just sort of, attack them for 4.
Yeah, especially with the Urza's lands, you should be able to easily activate and leave mana up.
There's definitely times where you can activate up to 3 in a turn. So just a Colonnade army, which is nice.
And then you are a blue-white control deck at heart, so we have spells like Path to Exile, Remand, Thirst for Knowledge. You have one, is it one of Condescend?
It's a 1 of Condescend. So there's 4 counterspell slots. Condescend is nice because it's a weird like gifts target that like you can throw in a pool and it messes up like what they're going to choose because then you have infinite mana to counter a spell. But sometimes you just need to know you have access to a hard counter. So it's pretty nice. And then of course the board has more hard counters to sort of add up to that.
And even though we're not all in like the red-green one, we still do run some expedition maps just to get those Tron pieces going.
And honestly, it's common to get Colonnades off of those as well. Like this is a deck that wants its colored sources. We're not playing chromatic spheres and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's very common for me to go map, get a Colonnade, get a Hollowed Fountain. So. Yeah.
And then since you're blue-white instead of red-green, you get some interesting sideboard tech. So we got the normal sideboard cards like Timely Reinforcement, Celestial Purge, Torpor Orb, Spell Scout. These are the main hits, but we got some spicy ones too, so I'm going to go over them. We got a 1 of Condemn.
Sometimes you really want that 5th Path to Exile.
Okay.
And Condemn is not Path to Exile, don't get me wrong. But it does a nice job, and then you can board it even in corner cases, I board it into Burn, and I've definitely attacked with my Spell Scout and gained 4 life. Sometimes you have to do that. But definitely there's a lot of matchups where like Merfolk is one where you need to be able to kill a creature in those first few turns. So I want the 5th effect, in that way. So Condemn is the best one. Like Dismember, I guess you could do, but it doesn't really help in the aggro matches because you're paying life. So Condemn has been pretty nice.
All right. So then we got a Faith Fetters.
All right,
Faith Fetters.
I'm not condoning everyone playing this
Limited
card.
All-Star Faith Fetters.
Okay, Faith Fetters is for Liliana the Veiled.
Okay.
The reason being, I needed a gifts package that could always take care of Liliana. So when you board in Celestial Purge, you can gifts for Celestial Purge, Snapcaster Mage, and Faith Fetters. And therefore, you always have a way to kill it. Faith Fetters can't be Abrupt Decayed. So that one was a lot of work trying to figure out, like, because honestly,
you had to go through Gather.
the Obzon and the Jund matches, Liliana's the card you care about. The rest of that matchup is really good, but Liliana can be rough, so I just needed a way to do that. So it's been pretty interesting. I've only got to cast it a couple times. However, it has been consistently, like, I get Thought Seized. Like Josh Cho Thought Seized me like yesterday. It was like, just like looking at it, it's like, I have to take that. like, there's a face,
gotcha.
There's a Faith Fetters in your hand. I have to take that card. Like, I did it. We did it.
We did it, boys. And then finally, a Mind Break Trap. So, Storm?
So Mind Break Trap is an interesting one. Yes, it's there for Storm. Again, yours out of the board, we have Negates and Swan Songs. We have Condescend in the main. So you want the counter package to be diverse, again, so you can gifts for 4 counter spells post board. Trap is also interesting in some of the decks that have Emrakul as well. Trap is a way to like win. Like, I know Mirror here isn't often, but even Red Green Tron, like Trap is one of the few ways that I can not just immediately die to Emrakul. Like, yeah, you're gonna take an extra turn. I'm gonna exile your card.
Wow. Fair enough.
So that's where we're at with that card.
All right, and then lastly, we gotta ask about the dream scenarios. Have you ultimated an Ugin and put Emrakul into play off the ultimate?
Not this weekend, but I have recently.
Okay.
It was a magical feeling. I got to ultimate the Ugin and put Iona and Emrakul into play.
Just wrecked your opponent.
And I was like, this one. He's like, yeah, I don't know how to beat that. And I'm like, well, you can't cast spells either.
Here you go.
So that was really fun. Yesterday, the coolest thing I got to do with Ugin yesterday, I got to play it and exile a couple creatures and a Leyline of the Void, and then be able to, at the end of his turn, gifts for Umber Rights Iona to lock up the game. So like, couldn't put anything in my graveyard until I played the Ugin to get rid of the Leyline, and it's like, oh, now we're all clear. Now we can do this.
So if you're looking for like a control deck, as close as we can get to a control deck in Modern, probably Blue-White Tron is just...
It's a rewarding deck if you play. Like, it took me a long time to get to the point where like some of the gifts packages are crazy, but it's like playing a puzzle. If you like putting puzzles together, there's cards you got in most situations, and every card you search for with gifts is good, and your opponent gets to make the choice. And it's sort of, we're not talking browbeat choices here, okay? Those are bad. We're talking every choice is good, and your opponent doesn't know which one's the worst for him. So it's a nice little bit of superiority going on with it. It feels good.
Feels good. All right, well, Mike, thanks for signing us in for the sideboard. Appreciate it. All right, you guys stay tuned for more invitational action here at Columbus.